Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room says the least. Sometimes the quietest presence changes everything, and sometimes you do not need to shout, you do not need to chase, you do not need to beg, because true power is not proven by noise, but by silence. Winning is not always about speaking, it is about being. It is about carrying a presence so steady, so unshakable, so calm that without a single word the message is heard. That is the art, that is the power. That is how you win him, silently. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is not the one that shouts, but the one that stays calm, composed, and silent. To win him silently is not about manipulation. It is about strength, respect, and wisdom. When you hold your silence, you are not showing weakness. You are showing mastery. Words can be twisted, arguments can be lost, but silence carries a power that cannot be debated. It is in silence that patience is revealed, understanding is built, and respect is earned. Winning someone's heart, trust, or loyalty does not always require long speeches. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is your calm presence, your consistent actions, and your ability to listen more than you speak. Silence avoids unnecessary conflict, creates room for reflection, and makes your message stronger without even speaking. Confidence is not about being the loudest voice, but about being secure enough to remain composed when others lose control. Silent resilience creates admiration. Gentle strength disarms pride, and dignity, preserved in silence, speaks 1,000 truths. To win him silently is not to stay voiceless forever, but to choose wisely when to speak, when to act, and when to simply allow your silence to echo. Remember, sometimes silence is the language of the wise, and in that language you will always find victory. Silence is often misunderstood. Many believe silence means weakness, surrender, or lack of confidence. But the truth is, silence can be the greatest form of power. When you choose not to answer every insult, not to react to every provocation, and not to justify yourself in every situation, you show a strength that words can never match. Think about it. Arguments often spiral because both sides keep adding fuel with their words. But silence removes the firewood. It ends the cycle without you lifting a finger. Silence is not emptiness, it is strategy. It is a shield that protects your peace, a weapon that confuses those who expect a reaction, and a mirror that reflects the real character of the other person. When you stay silent, you are not suppressing your thoughts. You are showing that your thoughts are too valuable to be wasted in unnecessary battles. You are teaching others that your respect is not something they can earn through shouting matches, but through actions and sincerity. Silence becomes your language of maturity, of grace, and of wisdom. And sometimes silence says exactly what words cannot. It tells him that you are not desperate to be understood, because truth does not need defending. It tells him that your dignity is not for sale, because respect is earned in quiet strength. And it tells him that your presence itself is powerful enough. Respect is a language that requires no translation. It is understood in every culture, in every relationship, in every human interaction. When you choose respect over arguments, you automatically elevate yourself above the noise. Arguments may win a point for the moment, but respect wins a heart for a lifetime. Think for a moment, how many times do arguments actually change someone's mind? Rarely. Most arguments push people further apart. They become battles of ego, where the goal is no longer to understand, but to prove who is right. In that battlefield, no one truly wins, but respect changes everything. Respect lowers defenses, it softens hearts, it creates space for connection where hostility once stood. Respect does not mean you agree with everything. It means you value the person enough to listen, to understand, to let them feel seen. And when he feels respected, something shifts within him. He no longer sees you as competition. He sees you as an ally. He no longer feels attacked. He feels understood. Respect has the quiet power to open doors that arguments could never unlock. Respect is not shown only in words. It is revealed in tone, in patience, in body language, in silence. It is revealed when you wait instead of interrupting, when you choose calm over chaos, when you decide to value peace over pride. Respect makes people remember you not for the battles you fought, but for the dignity you carried. And slowly, without you realizing, respect builds trust. Trust builds influence. Influence builds connection. And connection builds the kind of bond that no argument could ever create. Because in the end, respect does not just change the way he sees you. It changes the way he sees himself in your presence. And when someone feels elevated, honored, and valued, patience is not just waiting, it is wisdom in motion. It is the ability to hold your peace when every part of you wants to react. It is the quiet strength of knowing that time reveals truth better than any argument ever could. Many believe power is found in quick responses, in sharp comebacks, in immediate actions. But true power belongs to the patient. Patience is not weakness. Weakness rushes, weakness demands, weakness tries to control. But patience stands firm, unshaken, steady. It is a strategy that allows you to see further than the moment, beyond the temporary noise, into the deeper outcome that only time can reveal. When you practice patience, you do not lose control, you take control. Think about the strongest trees. They do not grow overnight. They withstand storms, winds, and seasons of silence before they tower above everything around them. Patience is the same. It is the deep root that keeps you grounded when everything around you is trying to shake you. And when it comes to winning him silently, patience is the invisible thread that pulls everything together. It shows him that you are not desperate for attention, not racing for validation, not trapped in the urgency of the moment. Instead, you stand calm, collected, and unbothered, because you know that consistency speaks louder than immediacy. Patience creates curiosity. It makes him wonder why you are not reacting like everyone else. It makes him think deeper about his own actions. It plants seeds of reflection in his mind that no amount of shouting could ever achieve. And the beauty of patience is that it always produces results. Not immediately, but inevitably. Because patience is not passive. It is active endurance. It is strength wrapped in silence. It is wisdom clothed in restraint. It is strategy disguised as calm. And the more patient you are, the clearer your influence becomes until eventually. Understanding is not simply hearing words. It is entering the heart behind those words. It is looking beyond actions and searching for meaning. And when you choose to understand rather than to judge, you create a bridge where walls once stood. Understanding is the key that unlocks trust. And trust is the foundation upon which all influence is built. Many try to win by overpowering, by proving, by demanding. But winning him silently is not about force. It is about creating an environment where he feels safe, where he feels seen, where he feels that someone finally understands him without the need for explanations. That safety becomes his anchor, and that anchor turns into trust. To understand is to step into his shoes without needing to wear them. It is to recognize that his silence may hide battles, his words may carry wounds, his actions may reflect struggles you cannot see. And instead of reacting to the surface, you choose to connect with the depth. That choice made in silence, made with patience, made with empathy, gains more trust than any spoken promise. Because promises can be broken, but understanding creates a bond that does not need constant proof. When someone feels understood, they drop their guard. When they drop their guard, they allow you into places no argument could ever reach. Understanding creates openness, and openness nurtures trust. And here's the truth: trust is not demanded, it is earned. It cannot be forced, it cannot be rushed, it cannot be manipulated. It grows quietly, like roots beneath the ground, invisible but unshakable. And every time you choose understanding over judgment, every time you choose empathy over reaction, every time you choose silence over argument, you water that root, and the trust grows deeper. Understanding does not just win him, it transforms him. Because when someone feels truly understood, they do not just respect you, they begin to respect themselves differently in your presence. They see you as the calm in the storm, the balance in the noise, the mirror that reflects not their flaws, but their humanity. And in that reflection, trust takes shape, and with trust comes connection, and with connection comes influence, and with influence comes the quiet kind of victory that does not need to announce itself, because it is already. Promises are easy. Anyone can make them. Words are cheap, and they roll off the tongue without cost. But actions demand effort, consistency, sacrifice. Actions speak a language that no one can fake, a language that is louder than speeches, stronger than declarations, and more lasting than any empty vow. When you want to win him silently, it is not your promises that matter. It is the actions you repeat quietly, without show, without announcement. Because promises excite for a moment, but actions inspire for a lifetime. Promises can create expectation, but actions create evidence, and evidence cannot be denied. Think of it: when someone keeps saying they care but their actions show neglect, the truth is revealed. When someone keeps saying they will change but never do, the truth is revealed. But when someone stays silent and lets their consistency speak, trust is built without a single word. That is the secret. Let your actions echo louder than any promises ever could. Actions create memory. Long after words are forgotten, actions are remembered. He may forget what you said, but he will never forget how your actions made him feel. Words may be questioned, but actions are undeniable. They tell the story of who you are, what you value, and how deeply you mean what you never even said aloud. And here lies the power. When your actions align with your silence, you carry an influence that cannot be argued with. He may debate your words, he may doubt your promises, but he cannot dismiss the truth your actions keep proving again and again. Quiet actions create loud impact. Subtle gestures build unshakable impressions. And without even trying to convince, you convince. Without even demanding recognition, you earn it. Without even announcing victory, you achieve it. Because in the end, promises are a sound, but actions are an echo. Promises vanish in the air, but actions remain written in memory. And every silent action you take becomes a page in a story he will continue to read long after the words fade, long after the noise dies down, long after the promises dissolve into nothing. Because it is always the action that lingers, always the action that defines, always the action that carries the weight of truth until eventually. There is a kind of presence that does not need to be loud, does not need to dominate the room, does not need to push others aside. And yet, when it enters, everyone notices. It is calm, it is steady, it is controlled. A calm presence carries an authority that words alone cannot create. It speaks without speaking, and it commands without demanding. Why? Because calmness is rare. Most people rush, most people react. Most people fill silence with noise, but when someone walks in and remains composed, when someone faces tension without breaking, when someone stands unshaken in the middle of chaos, that is when attention shifts. Not to the noisiest voice, but to the calmest spirit. Calmness unsettles those who expect you to panic. It disarms those who expect you to fight back. It creates a contrast so sharp that it cannot be ignored. The calm one becomes the strong one because calmness is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of it. It is proof that you are not controlled by the outside world, but by your inner strength. And in relationships, in influence, in silent victories, that calm presence becomes magnetic. He begins to notice that you are different, not because you shout louder, not because you compete harder, but because you stand firmer. Calmness becomes your unspoken power. It tells him you are not desperate, not shaken, not controlled by circumstance. It tells him you are grounded, secure, confident without arrogance. That calm presence draws curiosity. It makes him wonder why you are unaffected. It makes him search for the reason behind your composure. And in that search he pays attention. Closer attention than he ever gave to noise. Because calmness creates space, space creates focus, and focus creates connection. And here is the beauty. Calmness is not passive, it is active power. It does not mean you do nothing. It means everything you do is deliberate, intentional, steady. It means you are not wasting energy on storms that will pass, but saving strength for the moments that truly matter. Calm presence is strength wrapped in stillness, wisdom covered in quiet, influence hidden in serenity. And slowly, without you trying to grab attention, attention comes to you. Without you chasing recognition, recognition finds you. Without you demanding respect, respect is given to you. Because calmness is not just noticed, it is remembered. It lingers in the mind of those who witness it. It plants itself deep in their memory, and it grows into admiration that no noise could ever achieve. And when that calm presence becomes your identity, when it becomes the atmosphere you carry, when it becomes the silent aura around you, then you no longer have to chase influence, because influence begins to chase you. And the more your calmness shines through storms, through noise, through chaos, the more. Not every fire needs fuel. Not every storm needs a response. Not every challenge needs to be answered with noise. Silence at the right moment is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the choice to rise above battles that are beneath you. It is the decision to let peace speak louder than pride. And when silence is chosen, escalation is prevented, and dignity is preserved. Arguments are like flames. Every word is a spark, every comeback a drop of gasoline. The louder it grows, the harder it becomes to stop, but silence is water. It extinguishes what words would have fueled. It ends the fight before it even begins. And here's the truth. Most conflicts are not about truth. They are about ego. Silence refuses to bow to ego, and in doing so, it disarms it. When you remain silent, you don't lose, you rise. You show that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on battles that do not build. You reveal that your strength is measured not by how loudly you fight, but by how wisely you choose not to. Silence keeps the peace, but it also keeps your power. Because the one who controls their tongue controls the outcome, and silence does more than stop conflict. It changes perception, it makes him pause, it makes him reflect. It forces him to face his own words without the distraction of yours. Silence is a mirror, it reflects his behavior back at him, and in that reflection often comes realization, often comes regret, often comes respect. Escalation thrives on reaction, but when there is no reaction, escalation dies. He cannot fight against calmness, he cannot argue with silence, he cannot escalate what you refuse to feed. And in that moment, you become the higher ground, the steady force, the undeniable presence that cannot be dragged into chaos. And the beauty is this: silence is not surrender. It is strategy. It is knowing that peace is more valuable than proving a point. It is choosing dignity over drama. It is holding control not by shouting, but by withholding. And in that withholding, you gain more than you ever would have won with words. Because silence is not empty. It is full, full of meaning, full of control, full of unshakable strength. And every time you choose it, you rise higher. Every time you practice it, you gain deeper influence. Every time you embrace it, You create an atmosphere where escalation cannot survive, where chaos cannot thrive, where noise has no place. And in that atmosphere, listening is more than silence. It is presence. It is not simply staying quiet until it's your turn to speak. True listening means absorbing, understanding, and valuing what is being said without rushing to respond. And in a world where so many fight to be heard, the one who truly listens becomes unforgettable. Most people hear words, but they do not listen to hearts. They nod, they wait for their chance to reply, they prepare counterarguments in their minds, but listening, real listening, is different. It is when your silence is not empty, but filled with attention. It is when your eyes, your posture, your energy all say, I am here, I see you, I value what you are saying. That kind of listening does not just hear, it heals. When you listen, you create space, and in that space, trust begins to grow. He feels acknowledged, he feels respected, he feels understood. Listening disarms defenses because no one feels the need to fight when they are being heard. Listening creates closeness because nothing is more powerful than knowing someone is giving you their full presence. And here is the quiet secret. Listening says more than speaking ever could. Words may show intelligence, but listening shows wisdom. Words may display confidence, but listening displays security. Words may try to win arguments, but listening wins hearts. Because connection is not built in noise. It is built in the stillness of being heard. Listening is also patience in action. It shows that you do not need to rush to fill silence, because you are comfortable enough to allow someone else to occupy it. It shows humility because you value his perspective enough to give it space, and that humility becomes influence because the more someone feels heard, the more they are drawn to you. And here's the beauty, when you listen, you learn. You learn what he truly values, what he fears, what he hides behind his words. Listening gives you knowledge, and knowledge gives you understanding, and understanding gives you the kind of influence that no speech could ever match. So you see, listening is not passive, it is powerful. It is the foundation of empathy, the seed of trust, the root of connection. And the deeper you listen, the deeper the bond grows, until words are no longer necessary, because silence itself becomes a language, and in that language, hearts align without effort, without force, without demand. And the connection continues to deepen, and the trust continues to strengthen, and the influence continues to expand until eventually, true confidence is not in loudness, not in arrogance, not in trying to dominate others. True confidence is revealed in restraint. It is the quiet power of self-control, the ability to remain steady when provoked, to remain calm when tested, to remain composed when others lose themselves. Confidence is not measured by how much you can say, but by how much you can hold back. Anyone can explode when angry, anyone can react when triggered, anyone can lash out when pressured. That takes no strength, but to stand firm, to breathe, to wait, to respond with wisdom instead of impulse, that takes mastery. Self-control is the crown of confidence. It is proof that you do not just have power, but you own your power. And when you demonstrate that kind of self-control, you stand apart. Because in a world where most are slaves to their emotions, the one who controls theirs becomes the one who leads. Self-control is silent leadership. It is influence without effort. It is authority without aggression. In silence, self-control shines brightest. You do not need to justify yourself because your calmness already speaks. You do not need to defend yourself because your composure is your defense. You do not need to fight for respect because your restraint demands it. Confidence wrapped in self-control becomes undeniable because it cannot be shaken by circumstance. And here's the beauty. Self-control is not just about what you avoid saying or doing. It's about what you choose instead. You choose peace over chaos. You choose patience over pride. You choose wisdom over reaction. And every choice builds a pattern, and every pattern builds a reputation, and that reputation becomes the silent force that wins trust, commands respect, and creates influence. Confidence shown in self-control also changes perception. He begins to see that you are not like the rest. You are not desperate to prove yourself, not insecure in silence, not shaken by pressure. Instead, you are grounded, and that grounding creates admiration because self-control is attractive. It signals maturity, strength, reliability. It shows that you can be trusted, not just in calm moments, but in storms. And slowly, without you ever saying a word, your confidence is recognized, your strength is respected, your influence is established. Because the one who controls themselves controls the outcome, controls the atmosphere, controls the future direction. And when you master self-control, you do not just win arguments. You win respect, you win trust, you win silently until your presence alone becomes enough, until your calm becomes the standard, until your restraint becomes the very definition of confidence, and from that point forward, force can win for a moment, but gentle strength wins for a lifetime. Force may silence someone temporarily, but gentle strength leaves an impression that cannot be erased. Force demands obedience, but gentle strength inspires respect. And the truth is, what is built through force eventually collapses, but what is built through gentleness endures. Gentle strength is not weakness. It is controlled power. It is knowing you have the ability to fight, but choosing not to. It is having the power to crush, but choosing instead to uplift. It is influence that comes not from intimidation, but from inspiration. And when you carry that kind of strength, people do not follow you because they fear you. They follow you because they trust you. Think about water. Water is gentle, soft, quiet. Yet over time it carves valleys, shapes mountains, smooths stones, and sustains life. Its strength is not in aggression, but in persistence. Its power is not in force, but in consistency. Gentle strength works the same way. It influences not by crashing down, but by flowing steadily, silently, unshakably. And when it comes to winning him silently, gentle strength becomes irresistible, because anyone can shout, anyone can force, anyone can demand. But very few can be calm, steady, and gentle while still being unshakably strong. That balance draws respect. That balance creates trust. That balance inspires admiration. Gentle strength lasts because it touches the heart, not just the mind. It communicates without intimidation. It heals instead of hurting. It builds instead of breaking. And those who experience it never forget it. Gentle strength lingers in memory. It leaves its mark quietly. It influences without needing credit. And here is the beauty. Gentle strength is often underestimated at first. People may mistake it for softness, for passivity, for weakness. But over time, they realize it is the most unshakable form of power. Because force fades, noise disappears, intimidation loses effect. But gentleness endures. It grows stronger the longer it lasts. It deepens the more it is experienced. It shapes character in ways force never could. And so, when you choose gentleness, you are not lowering your power. You are raising it. You are not losing control. You are mastering it. You are not giving up. You are gaining more than force could ever win. Gentle strength wins silently, steadily, endlessly, because it cannot be broken, cannot be denied, cannot be forgotten, and as it continues to flow, as it continues to shape, as it continues to influence, it becomes a power that effort does not always need an audience. In fact, the most powerful efforts are often unseen, unannounced, and uncelebrated. Silent effort is the kind that speaks for itself. It does not ask for applause, it does not beg for recognition, it does not demand to be noticed. And yet, it cannot be ignored. Because results always reveal what silence has been working on. When you move in silence, your effort builds strength quietly. There is no distraction, no noise, no need to prove yourself in the moment. Silent effort focuses on the process, and the process shapes the outcome. And when the outcome finally appears, it is undeniable. It carries weight, it leaves an impression, it tells the world everything your silence never had to say. Silent effort is lasting because it surprises. People expect announcements, they expect noise, they expect constant reminders. But when you work silently, your results appear unexpectedly, and the surprise makes the impression even deeper. It shows him that your strength is not in what you promise, but in what you deliver. It shows him that you are not seeking validation, because your validation comes from your own consistency. And here is the truth. Silent effort is not about being unnoticed. It is about being undeniable. He may not see every step. He may not hear every sacrifice. He may not know every detail of the work you are doing. But he will always feel the weight of the result. And when the result speaks, no one can question the effort behind it. Silent effort also commands respect because it is disciplined. It means you are focused on the goal, not the attention. It means you are investing energy in building, not in boasting. It means you understand that true recognition does not come from talking about what you will do, but from showing what you have done. And that showing does not require words. It requires consistency. And slowly, silently, that effort builds a reputation. Without announcement, without speeches, without noise, your actions carve a space in his mind. He may not compliment it right away, he may not even acknowledge it at first, but he will remember it. Silent effort lingers because it is not a performance, it is truth. And truth always leaves its mark. The beauty is this: silent effort multiplies its power over time. One quiet action becomes a habit, that habit becomes consistency, that consistency becomes identity. And that identity becomes influence. You no longer need to say what you are capable of. Your effort shows it, your results prove it, your presence embodies it. Silent effort makes you unforgettable, because long after words fade, the impression of your work remains. And as that impression grows, as it deepens, as it shapes how he sees you, it becomes a force that does not fade, a memory that does not vanish, a respect that does not end. And from there it keeps building, it keeps expanding, it keeps echoing silently, until eventually. Resilience is not about what you say, it's about what you endure. It's not measured by the speeches you give, but by the storms you survive. And sometimes the greatest declaration of strength is not shouted from the rooftops, but carried in silence. Because when you keep moving forward without complaining, when you rise again without excuses, when you stand tall without needing to announce it, that resilience commands a respect that words could never buy. Anyone can talk about strength. Anyone can claim endurance, but to live it, to embody it, to show it silently in the way you carry yourself, that is different. That is what makes others pause. That is what makes them watch. That is what makes them respect you, even if they never say it aloud. Because silent resilience cannot be denied. It shows itself in your persistence, in your calmness, in your refusal to be broken. Resilience without words is powerful because it removes doubt. Words can be questioned, but endurance cannot. You cannot fake rising after being knocked down. You cannot fake surviving what others would have given up on. You cannot fake standing steady when life shakes you. Resilience is proven, not spoken, and when it is proven silently, it resonates even louder. And here's the beauty: resilience does not always roar. Sometimes it is simply refusing to quit. Sometimes it is showing up again and again and again. Sometimes it is walking through fire without announcing the heat. Sometimes it is carrying wounds with dignity and moving forward anyway. That kind of resilience doesn't ask for pity, doesn't seek applause, doesn't demand validation. It just continues, and in continuing it inspires. Resilience without words tells a story words could never tell. It tells him that you are unshakable, that your strength is not surface, deep, that your worth is not dependent on approval. It tells him that you can be relied on, trusted, respected, because you are not moved by temporary storms. It tells him that your silence is not emptiness. It is strength contained, strength refined, strength proven. And over time, resilience becomes your reputation. He begins to associate you not with weakness, not with noise, not with excuses, but with quiet strength, with endurance, with unshakable stability. And that kind of respect cannot be forced, it cannot be demanded, it cannot be bought. It is only earned through resilience. Silent, steady, undeniable. Because when you keep standing, when you keep rising, when you keep enduring without needing to shout about it, you become something rare, something unforgettable. Your silence becomes proof, your endurance becomes influence, and your resilience becomes the foundation of respect that lasts long after the moment, long after the challenge, long after the storm. And as you keep rising, as you keep enduring, as you keep proving without saying, the respect grows deeper, the admiration grows stronger, the influence grows wider until eventually. Patience is not waiting with weakness. It is waiting with strength. It is not sitting idle. It is standing steady. It is not the absence of action. It is the presence of control. When you are patient, you are saying without words, I trust my value. I trust my timing. I do not need to rush. I do not need to beg. I do not need to chase. That is confidence in its most silent, most powerful form. The world is filled with noise. People rushing, pushing, forcing outcomes, desperately trying to prove themselves. But patience stands out. Patience is rare. Patience says, I know who I am, and I know that what is meant for me cannot be stolen. That calm assurance speaks louder than any demand ever could. Because true patience is not passive. It is active trust. It is controlled strength. It is quiet dominance. When you are patient, you communicate stability. You show that you are not swayed by temporary emotions, not controlled by pressure, not shaken by delay. You show that you know your worth is not determined by speed, but by substance. And the more patient you are, the more undeniable that worth becomes. Because people begin to see that you are not desperate for recognition, you are not racing for validation, you are not chasing for attention. You simply are, and that is enough. Patience also creates curiosity. When you do not rush, when you do not reveal everything at once, when you do not hurry to prove, he wonders, he observes, he pays attention. Because silence paired with patience is magnetic. It draws instead of chases. It makes people lean in instead of pull away. It shows that you are in control not of others but of yourself. And the one who is in control of themselves always has the upper hand. Think about a seed. It does not demand the sun. It does not cry out for rain. It does not shout for the soil to hurry. It simply waits quietly, patiently, confidently, and in that silence it grows roots. It builds unseen strength. It prepares for its moment, and then, when the time is right, it breaks through the soil. Not weak, not fragile, but powerful, ready, undeniable. That is what patience does for you. It makes you unshakable before your moment arrives. And here's the truth. Impatience repels, but patience attracts. Impatience reveals insecurity, but patience radiates confidence. Impatience drains energy, but patience multiplies influence. When you embody patience, you show that you are not controlled by the clock, not enslaved by urgency, not desperate for quick results. You are timeless, steady, unmoved, and that aura cannot be ignored. Because patience is not silence that lacks power, it is silence that contains power. It is silence that says, I can wait because I am certain of my worth. I can endure because I know what I bring. I can stand still because I know my presence speaks louder than my words ever could. And as you keep holding that patience, as you keep standing firm, as you keep waiting with confidence instead of weakness, that silent language grows louder, stronger, deeper, until it becomes impossible to overlook, impossible to deny, impossible to resist. And still it continues, still it expands. Still it carries forward, drawing respect, inspiring trust, commanding attention without needing to say a single word, without needing to rush, without needing to end, flowing endlessly like. So in the end, it is not the noise that wins. It is not the force, the rush, or the desperate chase. It is the silence, the patience, the resilience, the quiet confidence that whispers louder than any shout. Because true power does not need to announce itself. It simply is. True influence does not demand recognition. It earns it. And true victory does not come from forcing. It comes from flowing, from standing, from being unshakable in who you are. Winning him silently is not about hiding. It is not about weakness. It is not about shrinking back. It is about rising without noise, enduring without excuses, waiting without fear, and showing without shouting. It is about embodying the kind of strength that needs no defense, the kind of presence that needs no explanation, the kind of value that speaks even in silence. And when you master that, when your silence becomes strength, when your patience becomes power, when your resilience becomes respect, you no longer chase, you attract. You no longer ask, you command. You no longer struggle to be seen. You are seen because silence, when filled with strength, becomes unforgettable. Silence, when paired with confidence, becomes undeniable. Silence, when lived with grace, becomes victorious. So win not with noise, not with force, not with words, win him silently. Win him completely, win him forever.